Hello, my fellow sleuths. My name is Inspector Thoroughly, and I am hoping that you will be able to help me to solve the terrible crime of murder. With the world gripped by a terrible pandemic, the UK is currently on lockdown. Just after the lockdown was put in place, the landlord of a block of luxury apartments in Belgravia, London, received a call from one of his residents who reported that water was leaking through their ceiling. Going into the apartment above, the landlord discovered the body of Sir Quentin Fridge lying on the floor of the living room. Sir Quentin was a wealthy shipping magnate who owned Merck's shipping company, and he had been poisoned. He had set a bath running, and this was overflowing and leaking through to the apartment below. Also in the apartment was a recently delivered Fortnum & Mason luxury hamper, which had been opened. The small pâté from the hamper had been eaten, and the bottle of champagne had been opened and partially drunk. There was only one wine glass. The apartment did not belong to Sir Quentin, however, who lived in Buckinghamshire. Instead, the apartment was rented by the German Countess Agnes von der Bahr. I will be interviewing each of our suspects in turn, sharing any evidence that I find, and then I invite you to try to work out who committed murder and how and why they did it. Suspect 1, Lady Philippa Fridge. Married to Sir Quentin for 10 years, Lady Philippa is the owner of Titler magazine, a high society publication. Well respected, the magazine is the go-to place for the upper echelons of the country to keep informed on who and what is in and out this season. Lady Philippa and her husband are very much equals in business and in private, as they are both strong-willed and ruthless. Titler is Lady Philippa's brainchild and owes much of its success to her acute business acumen and her own social standing. Why was your husband in the apartment in Belgravia, the one owned by Countess Agnes von der Bahr?
I don't know. He said he was meeting someone about a business proposition. He travels a lot for such things, but rarely gives me any details.
And how did he get there?
The chauffeur, Lee Mozine, his driver, he took him there. They left around 4 p.m.
Tell me about your magazine, Titler.
I own the magazine, my pride and joy, a high-end publication for the discerning people at the peak of society. We cover a wide range of topics, from who's holding the largest balls this season to shooting stick faux pas. And of course, who's in and who's out at the moment in every sense. It's very well respected by the higher echelons of society, as am I.
And can you explain for me this invoice for a private investigator?
I was suspicious of my husband's behaviour, particularly in the last 6 months. He was always evasive when I asked him where he was going, and usually just kept things vague. It's like he said he was trying to get on top of some things, was keeping abreast of others, and sometimes getting into regions that he hadn't before. I hired an investigator just to find out where he was going.
And where had he been going?
It appears he was going to an apartment in Belgravia in London. The Countess was also seen going in at the same time that my husband was there, and not coming out until the following day. Bowlegged, no doubt.
You previously said you didn't know why he was there.
Look, if this was to get out, it would ruin my reputation. It would ruin my magazine's reputation. It would ruin my life, Inspector. How could he, with that down and out Euro trash trollop?
Do you know the Countess personally?
No, I only know her by reputation. A German widow involved in a scandal some time ago. Believe now she's hiding out here with what's left of her fortune. We did do a feature on her a little while back. One of our most popular, I have to say. People do love to read about some juicy gossip, especially when the once mighty have fallen.
Your husband owns Merck's shipping company. I understand that he was CEO, but was no longer involved in the day-to-day running of the business.
That's right, yes. He had a minor stroke a couple of years ago, partly due to stress. That's when he took on Wayne Anchor as managing director. Appears, of course, now that the only stroke he's been having lately is with the Countess.
You have a rather large estate. Do you have a problem with rats?
Rats. Occasionally. My husband looks after that sort of thing. I leave it to him.
And would he use poison or traps?
Really wouldn't know, as I say. My husband deals with all that, so I left that sort of thing to him. He was out in the grounds on the morning before he left to meet the Countess. One vowel too many, in my opinion. I was busy here in my study, editing the next issue of Titler. Saw him through the window. Come to think of it, Lee, my husband's driver, he was by the garden shed earlier in the day. He wouldn't normally be there. Maybe my husband asked him to do something for him.
And how did your husband seem on that last day?
He seemed a little preoccupied, a little distant, but other than that, he was fine.
I see. Well, thank you, Lady Philippa. That will be all for now.
Thank you, Inspector.
Suspect 2, Countess Agnes von der Bahr. The Countess has been living in England for 3 years, with a country estate in Buckinghamshire and a rented apartment in Belgravia. She is widowed, her late husband, Count Frederick von der Bahr, having died in a car accident 5 years ago. The couple were celebrities in Germany, rarely out of the media for their outrageous parties, high-profile philanthropy, and lavish lifestyle. A financial scandal left the Countess hounded by the press and scorned by the public, causing her to move to England to escape the headlines. It was your apartment that Sir Quentin was discovered in. How do you explain that?
We are friends. He often stays in my city apartment when he's in London for business.
And would you stay in the apartment at the same time as him?
Of course not. He's a married man, and that would just not be proper.
Well, you've been observed going into the apartment while Sir Quentin was there.
Yeah. I may have visited from time to time, but as I said, he is a friend.
Were you having an affair with Sir Quentin?
How very dare you! I am offended by this line of questioning. No, enough.
Well, there was this text on Sir Quentin's phone from late on the afternoon of the day that he went to the apartment. From you, my car won't start. I'm going to be late. Have you found my little present? I know you like it. Perhaps it will help me to change your mind, especially when you see what I have planned for the truffles. Signed A, kiss, kiss. Would you care to explain?
I had arranged for a hamper for Fortnum and Mason to be delivered to the apartment so that it would be waiting when he arrived. He loved Fortnum and Mason. I made sure it had all the treats that he liked so much. There's nothing he liked more than tasting an amuse-bouche.
I'm sure. What were you hoping he would change his mind about?
That is none of your business.
I'll be the judge of that. Please explain what you meant.
He felt uncomfortable about staying in my apartment anymore. He wanted to not see me again. I was upset that he would not want to be friends, but I understood that he was worried that people would jump to conclusions about our friendship. I wanted to reconsider and invited him down so that, well, we could get a grip on the situation, thrash things out and reach a conclusion that satisfied both of us.
And how are your finances at the moment, Countess?
I'm comfortable.
Well, you left Germany because of an investigation into possible fraud, didn't you?
Well, there was a vicious rumor that I had been stealing funds from my late husband's business. Nothing was ever proven, but the suggestion of such a thing ruined my reputation in Germany. I moved here to make a new start. I bought a house in the country and I rent the apartment in London.
And what about the money from the Count's business? I understand that he was a very prosperous man.
Well, unfortunately, it transpired after his death that the business owed a lot of money in tax that had not been paid. There was not as much wealth after all. Apparently, the one thing the Count could not do was count.
Well, according to this email from the landlord of the apartment, you are 2 months in arrears. Dear Countess Agnes, I am writing to inform you that you are now 2 months overdue on your rent on the above property. I would be grateful if you could arrange urgently a transfer of funds to cover these arrears. If payment has not been made in the next 14 days, then I'm afraid we will need to raise an eviction notice. Kind regards, I. Fleesome, landlord.
Okay. Money's a little tight at the moment. I have some business dealings that have not worked out yet.
Well, Sir Quentin is a very wealthy man.
Yes, but that has no bearing on my friendship with him.
That hamper would have been expensive.
Well, my niece, she works at Fortnum & Mason in the distribution warehouse. She gets me a staff discount.
I see. Well, thank you, Countess. That is all for now. Suspect 3, Lee Mozine. Lee has been working for Sir Quentin as his chauffeur for the past 4 years. He is a very good driver and mechanic and keeps Sir Quentin's collection of luxury cars in pristine condition. Prior to working for Sir Quentin, Lee had his own business, maintaining and repairing luxury cars with his business partner, Martin Aston. Now, I understand that you drove Sir Quentin to Belgravia.
Well, yeah, it was about an hour's drive.
Mm-hmm. And did you drive him there regularly?
Well, yeah, every couple of weeks.
I see. And did you know what he was going there for?
Well, I mean, that's none of my business. I could take a guess, but it's not really my place to say, you understand.
Mm-hmm. What did you do when he was staying there?
Well, I drove back to the estate. He texted me to let me know when he wants picking up.
And how did he seem on that last day?
Well, a bit quiet, like something wasn't right. He didn't say much on the way down.
Were you happy in your job as his driver?
Well, generally happy. The hours weren't great, though. I would have to drop everything any time to drop him off or pick him up from somewhere or another. The pay isn't great, but I do get to drive some very nice cars.
Generally happy? This email casts some doubt on that. If I may read it to you. Dear Sir Quentin, I'm writing to you to voice my unhappiness with my current working conditions. I realise that I am your driver and I've enjoyed my time driving for you in the past. However, I have noticed that increasingly I'm being asked to drive further, my working hours have become longer, and there is now an expectation for me to drive at increasingly unsociable hours, all without any increase to my salary. I hope that you will at least consider an increase in my salary to cover the increase in my driving duties, particularly in light of the requirement for me to exercise a degree of discretion regarding one regular destination in London. Yours sincerely, Lee Mozine. And then I see that Sir Quentin has responded with, Lee, I have always appreciated your diligence, discretion, and quality of work, but don't you ever make veiled threats to me. My pet PI has done some digging and uncovered some very interesting information from your past. Let's just say, with what I have discovered, the police may very well be reopening a certain case and things would become so very difficult for you. So before you try to use information against me, it would be worth you considering what you could end up losing. I hope that your discretion will remain. Sir Quentin. Would you care to explain?
Okay. I was frustrated. I felt like I was being taken advantage of. He's beck and call at any time, day or night, for not much pay. And half of the time, it was just so he could get his leg over with some German toffee tart.
Yes, I believe there was a toffee tart in the hamper.
What?
It looks like you were trying to blackmail him.
I was just angry. I've been driving a lot. I was overtired.
He says he knows what you did and can make life difficult for you. What did he mean?
Well, I've no idea.
Well, I have an interesting newspaper article here from about 5 years ago, if I may read this out to you. A local man released over missing business partner. Local mechanic Lee Mozine, co-owner of luxury car maintenance business Diamond Auto Care, has been released without charge after being arrested over the disappearance of his business partner, Martin Aston. Mozine had initially been arrested after reports of an argument with Aston, whereby Mozine accused Aston of sleeping with his girlfriend. Shortly afterwards, Aston disappeared, leaving no note, and the police have been unable to trace him. It is believed that there has been insufficient evidence to formally charge Mozine, and that his girlfriend had supplied an alibi for the time period when Aston went missing. Police are now treating Aston's disappearance as a missing persons inquiry.
It was a misunderstanding all round. I have no idea where Martin went.
Well, it appears that Sir Quentin hired a private investigator to look into your past. What do you think he found?
Well, there was nothing to find.
Well, I've been in touch with the private investigator. Apparently your ex-girlfriend, the one you accused your business partner of sleeping with, remembered some important details that she didn't tell the police at the time.
I did nothing wrong. She must be lying. She's good at lying and standing. You ask Martin.
She says that she lied to the police to give you an alibi. She also says you bought rat poison just before Martin Aston disappeared, when you lived in a flat and there were no rats. She says you made a comment about getting rid of a specific rat. She believes you poisoned him and then disposed of his body.
She's wrong. There isn't any evidence. I'm innocent.
You were unhappy with your work arrangements, and when Sir Quentin was dismissive of your concerns, you threatened to blackmail him over his affair. He countered this with his knowledge of your shady past. Did you poison Sir Quentin to protect yourself in the same way you poisoned Martin Aston out of jealousy?
No, I haven't poisoned anyone. I've done nothing wrong. Inspector, you've got to believe me.
One final thing, Mr. Mozine. Lady Philippa says she saw you in the grounds by the garden shed earlier on the day you drove Sir Quentin to London. What were you doing there?
Well, she must be mistaken. I mean, I wasn't anywhere near the shed. I'd never had any reason to go there.
I see. Well, thank you, Mr. Mozine. That is all for now. Suspect 4, Wayne Anker. Wayne has been managing director of Merck's for 2 years. Sir Quentin had suffered a stroke, which his doctor said was partly due to stress, and so Sir Quentin decided to pass over the day-to-day running of the business to a managing director. He hired Wayne Anker, who had previously been working as a managing director for a rival shipping company, Anchors Away, which was owned by Wayne's brother, Paul. Mr. Anker, you are the managing director for Sir Quentin's shipping company, Merck's.
Yes, that's correct. I became managing director 2 years ago, after Sir Quentin had his stroke.
And where did you work prior to that?
At my brother Paul's shipping company, Anchors Away.
Why did you leave your brother's company?
We had a falling out, as siblings often do. Paul was very eager to expand the business, but I counselled strongly against. I felt he was trying to grow the business too big, too quickly, and he was putting it at some risk. Unfortunately, things became acrimonious between us, although we have started to put things behind us of late.
And what was Sir Quentin like to work for?
In a word, difficult. I am managing director and therefore am responsible for the day-to-day running of the business. Sir Quentin has a seat on the board and, in theory, a very hands-off approach. In practice, he was constantly interfering and, frankly, sticking his oar in where it wasn't wanted.
The opposite to the Countess in that respect. You said I am managing director, but that isn't strictly true, is it, Mr. Anker?
I'm sorry, Inspector. I don't understand what you mean.
Now, I have an email here from Sir Quentin to you. Wayne, it has come to my attention that you've been passing on sensitive business information to your brother, who works for a rival shipping company. Not only is this a huge betrayal of my trust, but it is also a criminal matter to which I will be involving the police once all of the relevant information has been gathered. To say that I was disappointed in you would be a gross understatement. Your employment is terminated with immediate effect, and you will be contacted by my legal team and the police in due course. Would you care to elaborate?
It was a simple misunderstanding. On Sir Quentin's part, I had begun to get back in touch with my brother Paul to try and build bridges. Sir Quentin became, paranoid, basically, that I was passing on company information, when in reality, all I was doing was becoming reacquainted with my brother.
The Fridge family seem to have put a lot of business in the direction of private investigators between them. Sir Quentin particularly seemed to like to probe deeply into people's pasts, and you are no exception, Wayne Anker. I have a copy of an email sent by you to your brother. Paul, I'm glad we've been able to patch things up between us. As discussed, attached is a document containing the upcoming tenders and pricing matrix. I hope you can put this to good use. Speak soon, Wayne. You passed sensitive business information onto your brother in order to give him an advantage over Merck's. This was then passed on to Sir Quentin by his private detective. Sir Quentin challenged you over this, didn't he? and then he fired you and threatened to contact the police.
Yes, I made an error of judgment. Look, I was frustrated by the constant interference from Sir Quentin. I couldn't do my job, so I thought I may as well help my brother Paul out and show him that bygones were bygones. But that damn private investigator stole my laptop, and then there was clear proof that I'd been passing on company secrets.
And so the only way out of this was to kill Sir Quentin.
No, I've made a mistake, but I'm no killer, Inspector. In fact, if Sir Quentin hadn't interfered with the day-to-day running of the business, I wouldn't have felt it necessary to do what I did. I may be an anchor, but he's a
Womanizer, among his other negative traits. He is also a murder victim. Thank you, Mr. Anchor. That will be all. 4 suspects, each with a motive to kill Sir Quentin Fridge. Revenge, jealousy, the desire to protect the status quo. Sir Quentin was not a pleasant man, but did he deserve to be killed? Someone thought so. And that person is